pattern I'm going to tie today is a variant of a hare's ear, and it's great for catching big trout. So for this fly, I'm going to need some squirrel skin, a hare's mask, some metallic wire, this is metallic brown, some brown thread, and obviously my hook and bead. So like all flies, the first thing I need to do is tie in the thread. So to tie this in, I need to add tension to my tag end of the thread and just start to weave in and create a body and a starting point by tying down to the shank of the hook. Like so. I'm just going to trim off the excess again. And now for the tail. I don't want to overcompensate for the amount of fibres I use, so I only need to use, say, between half a dozen to 8 fibres. And just try and trap them nice and neatly in my hand and pinch off the amount that I would like to use for the length of the tail, like so. Now, the easiest way to do this is if I use my thumb and index and actually slot in between where the shank of the hook is, I can just pinch it in and hold it securely and wind my way back up the hook to the top of the bead, just so it's tied in nice and neatly and it's not flared all over the place. Snip off the excess again. And now for my wire rib. In this case, I've actually used the same colour, so it's a metallic brown, so it matches the bead colour. Now when I'm fishing for your cleverer than average fish, I like to try and match the rib colour with the bead colour. Again, it just makes everything look a bit more natural and keeps it nice and simple. So tying that in down the hook securely like so until I get back where I finished off tying the tail fibres in. And I'm going to just pull that out of the way so it's not interfering with the rest of the tying. Now where the twist of this fly comes in is, although it's a hare's ear style variant, what I'm actually going to use is squirrel skin for the body. Now the idea for this is the coarse, thicker fibres are going to allow me to create a far more buggy and messy looking fly, which in some ways is a really good thing. You want those flies to look messy so that they get plenty of movement and they look extremely buggy. So just pulling out a small amount of fibres, I'm just going to spin them in to the thread. Now the thing that you'll find when using squirrel skin and using the fibres in it is they don't catch very easily, so you could use wax. In this case, all I've done is I've just pulled out some of the softer dubbing and it's allowed me to create an anchor point, so as that's gripped to the thread, I can now see the thicker coarse fibres actually starting to hold as well. So I'm just going to start to wrap that around the hook and start off my profile to the fly. And you can see there sometimes it just doesn't catch well, so the idea is you might have to just spin it again until it starts to really catch in. There we go. Now as you can see already, a lot of the fibres are starting to poke out a lot and you can see it's a really thick fly. We can trim this down, but that's the effect that we're looking for in this case. And again, a bit more. Now again, because I'm not using wax, I could always just wet my fingers by licking them and it will allow those fibres to bind in a bit tighter again. So nice and thick. It doesn't matter if they're not fully tight down, because again that's what's going to give it that messy look. And as you can see, I'm just starting to thicken the amount that I'm using as I come up the hook to create that tapered look, so it's actually mimicking your natural stone clingers and things like that, which this fly is intended on imitating. Like so, right up to the hook, and there we go. Now what I'm going to do so it doesn't interfere with my collar for this fly, I'm just going to trim a few fibres off. I don't want to go too deep in, otherwise you'll probably find that you'll lose that really buggy look. So just take off a few of the thicker fibres, and so it's still really messy looking. Right, that's all in now. Now what I want to do is secure this in, so to make sure that when the trout's sharp teeth are tearing this fly up, by using this wire ribbon going the opposite way that I've wound, coming up with the thread and tying in the squirrel skin, basically it's just going to clamp it all down and make sure that it doesn't unravel or come apart whilst in the fish's mouth, so that this fly can be used time and time again thereafter. Right, there we go, like so. And just wrap that round 3 or 4 times so that you've got a nice tight bite on the fly against the shank of the hook. And now we can turn our wire and just create enough heat and friction in there so that it snaps like so. A few good turns and that's done. So there we go. Pretty much this is a real simple and quick fly, but now all I'm going to need is my collar. So in this case I'm going to go to my hare's mask, just because there's some nice fluffy black fibres in here that I can use as my dubbing to create my collar. A little bit more than that. Try and get any of the lighter fibres out, otherwise you kind of ruin the look where you want it to be nice and dark at the head end. Like so. And now I could finish off there, and that would be a fly that would catch fish equally as so as any other fly, but I just want just a very subtle attractant in there. So I'm going to go back to that peacock dubbing that I have on the table here, and I can just use a small amount just to create a little bit of flash that's subtle enough that it's not going to make the fly look unnatural, but just enough so it just can shine in the light and grab a bit of attention so the fish can see it easy like so. Okay, so there you have it. And now we obviously need to tie that off so that the thread is clamped down. So we're going to use our whip finish, and using our whip finish tool, what we're going to do is with the hook end we just need to catch that against the thread like so, and at the other side, the opposite side, we've got a little groove, so our thread is just going to catch in that groove so it's running through. Give yourself plenty of thread, because the last thing you want is it to be overly taut and then the thread snaps because it's so fine, or basically that you haven't given yourself enough room to play with. So once you've caught it in like that, if you just let go of the actual whip finish part of the tool and just hold onto the bar, the stem of the tool, it will twist itself around and create that triangle. Now pulling my bobbin hand down, I can place that thread just alongside the fly there, so that as I turn like this, nothing's getting in the way, and I can give it 3 or 4 turns just around the shank of the hook and behind the bead. And now pulling on the bobbin hand, you can see here it's starting to move that whip finish tool up closer to the eye of the hook. Now just gently lifting off with the groove end, I can let that come free from behind there, and just rotating the hook so that it can slip off. I've now locked that fly into place, and that thread is nice and securely fastened in behind the eye of the hook and behind the bead, and I've just pulled it down so that the thread's hidden, and I'm just going to snip off as close as I can. Again, rather than cutting with the scissors, use the blades, catch the thread in between the blades and just push. This will stop you ripping off any fibres, and there you go, there's our finished product. So there you have it, the hare's ear. This is my take on a traditional pattern. I absolutely love this fly. Not only is it a close representative of a stoneclinger nymph, which is a big part of the fish's diet in a river, but it's also caught me my biggest trout of the year by a long shot. I hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to our Wilderness TV YouTube channel by clicking here.